we're going to introduce our first guest. Patrick Steenberg is our first inductee. He played at Cathedral Preparatory School in Erie, Pennsylvania, and was a high school All-American quarterback. And Mike McCoy, who's a prior inductee into the Sports Faith Hall of Fame, played at that same school and also played at Notre Dame. So Pat went on to be the quarterback at Notre Dame. He was also the founder of Global Football Incorporated in the Catholic Bowl, and we're really very blessed to have him. So also here tonight, and I just want to really quickly introduce him. He's a dentist. If y'all need any teeth pulled or anything else, Dr. Gary Potempa, who played with Pat at Notre Dame, and I had 3 boys play at Carmel Catholic, and my oldest got to play for Coach Potempa, and to his left is his son, Jimmy Potempa, who Pat's going to tie it all up, but was able to get Jimmy to play in Mexico football. So forget about soccer. We're going to teach them the real game over there, right? Patrick Steenberg, sir.
Thank you. Who? About 9 hours ago, I was in Dublin. It was great. And the plane was late. And I kept sending notes going, I think I'm going to get there, but the flight has to get here. So it's a thrill to be here and happy to be here. I feel like I'm still a little jet lagged, but that's all right. That's how my life works, you know. And what a blessing to have all of you together and to be here and see Jimmy and Gary. Gary, if he and I had played against each other any more practices, I wouldn't be walking. He was a really good defensive player, nose tackle on the 73 championship game. And as I saw his son Jimmy, you know, Gary called me whatever year it was when Jimmy was getting ready to finish college, and he goes, hey, you do all these international games, right? I said, yeah. And he goes, well, Jimmy wants to keep playing ball, and, you know, he's not going to play in the NFL, probably not in the CFL. Can you help him out? And I said, yeah, I know people all around Europe that I could help him go to do that. He said, yeah, he wants to do that. I said, but, you know, the European football back, that was 15 years ago maybe, it was more, I said, it's like beer ball. You know, it's just club football and a bunch of guys having fun. I said, why didn't he go to Mexico? I can help him go to and get his graduate degree and play football. He's a smart kid. So he ended up going to Mexico, got his graduate degree, studied 3 years, played football, led them to a national championship in Mexico where they play in universities. So it's fun to see Jimmy and Gary, and appreciate you guys showing up for this, you know, a couple guys I know. And then when I saw the list of who was getting inducted here, and it's Pat Eilers, who is like a real football player, you know. And I said, how did I get invited to this? But it's just, I feel very blessed to have been asked to be here and to be part of this. And that's kind of my life. The last 3 years has been weird, as all of ours has, right? What I do is Football Events International. That's kind of what I've taken on that. And I started in 1996. I live in Texas, and I was working in the horse industry, running events and media, and I was bored, you know. And I wanted to get back into football. I was like 43 years old or 7, and I loved football, right? That's what I had done for high school and college until Era decided I wasn't good enough and he had somebody else play. That was one of his worst mistakes, but he did okay. But I just wanted to start something in football, and I wanted to work with youth. I knew that. I wanted to do football, and I wanted to do travel. I loved international travel. To me, international travel is the best teacher in the world. Every moment. I just had Siena Heights. I got Siena Heights coming. I had Muhlenberg College, a D3 school out of Philadelphia, and I had Sewanee University of the South out of Tennessee. We were both in Spain with them a couple weeks ago. And when those kids get on the bus at the airport in Barcelona, they're like wide-eyed, right? And they've got their bags, and they haven't slept overnight. And we had like 70 football players and 30 parents and 10 coaches. And I get on the front of the bus, and our tour guide gives them the basic directions. Watch out for this, do that. Then I get up, and I pull my phone out. And I said, everybody's got a phone, right? And they all pull them out. They go, yeah. I said, put the damn thing in your pocket. Because you're not going to learn anything on your phone while you're here. Look outside. You see that billboard? You have no idea what that says. Pero yo puedo entenderlo porque yo entiendo español. I speak Spanish, so I know what it is. They didn't know what it talking about. I said, you're going to taste food you've never tasted. You're going to meet people you've never met. You're going to have all these experiences. And, they pay attention to me somewhat. But that's how I got into doing this global football thing. And I've done it with high schools and colleges. Took one high school, Mount St. Joseph, out of Baltimore, Maryland. We took them to England in 1996. And then in 2019, when I took University of Pennsylvania, the Ivy League team, to China, it was the 28th country on the 6th continent where we've done football games and educational tours. So it's just, I didn't have a plan, and I always tell people it's not our plan, right? There's somebody else looking over us. I just started into something and dove into it. The one event that rings with me over the years, there's a coach at Eastern Michigan University. He's the best man in college football. I don't know if he's the best coach. He's a really good coach, but he's the best man I know in college football. He had traveled with me twice when he was at Wabash College in Indiana, and then he went to Drake University. Came up to me at the coaches convention. Coach, you've been to the AFCA convention. That's like 10,000 big, loud men just slapping each other and hugging each other and going, yo, coach. You don't have to know a name. Everybody just says coach. And he comes up to me and he goes, Patrick, he goes, how you been? I said, great. He goes, I've been at Drake now 2 years, and I want to do something special. All right, cool. That's what I do. What do you want to do? And he goes, well, we've been to Switzerland and we've been to Panama. I want to go to Africa. There's never been an American football game on the continent of Africa. This was the convention 2010. And I'm like, all right, cool. I'd like to go to Africa. I'm up for that. I said, what do you want to do? And he goes, well, there's never been an American football game on the continent. I've checked it out. There's never been a real football game on the continent of Africa. I'm like, well, I like to be first. That's a good thing. And he says, and I want to take these kids from Iowa. They think they're poor Iowa dirt farmers. I want to take them, and I want to show them real poverty. I want to work in orphanages. I want to do service work in schools. I want to go to hospitals. I want to make that a key part of this trip. I'm like, yeah, I like that idea. And he goes, I want to show them lions and tigers, and, yeah, that's cool. And he goes, and I want to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. Like, all right, cool. I said, I was just almost 60 then, and I said, yeah, how tall is that? He goes, it's 19,325. He knew exactly. I said, great. I said, so what do you want me to do? We've done this 5-minute thing here. And he goes, well, I have my team. I have my athletic director. I have our president. You do everything else. So that embarked a mission. That was January of 2011. And then on May 26, 2012, I'm standing on the top of Kilimanjaro with 119 student athletes from Mexico. The opponent team I had to find, couldn't get another American. I had to find a team, so I got an all-star team from Mexico, from their university. So I've got like 67 Mexicans, 65 Iowans, coaches, and we started off with 126, 119 got to the summit. And I got up there and said, wow, this is like, it just rocked my world, to be able to do that and to do all the things we did. We did football clinics. The 2 days we were there, the two teams practiced on big rugby pitches. I'm still talking Irish, pitches, fields, next to each other. And we had 500 kids a day come out and throw footballs around and just hand them off and throw it and learn football. They didn't know what I was talking about with American football. I had to smuggle the 1,000 footballs in because I didn't want to pay for them, I had to buy them from Baden. Nobody would give me a football. I just didn't ask the right people, right, at Wilson or Riddell or whatever. But we did that, and it just changed our world and everybody who went on that. And I came up with a theme for that. When I do a lot of these events, I like to come up with a motto, a mantra, and that one was big enough I had to have something. So I'm on a scouting trip over there, and I asked our guide, I said, what is it, tell me something in Swahili. That's the main language they use. Tell me something. And he goes, well, Kileleni means to the summit. And wherever you look in Tanzania, if you're within 100 miles, you can see, at least in the morning, you can see. In the afternoon, it gets covered up by clouds, but you can see Mount Kilimanjaro. And I said, Kileleni, that's perfect. And Swahili, if you can read Spanish, you can read Swahili. It's pronounced the same ways. And I have no idea what it means, but I can read the words. And Kilelene means to the summit. And that became the motto for that trip. And it then became the motto of what I try to do in life. It's kind of, I realize that that's kind of how I try to live, is just take everything to the summit. I mean, today it was awesome. It's like I planned it out. Great, I'm going to catch a flight in Dublin. I'll come in here. I'm going to be with all you guys. Why not, right? We'll sleep. When we die, we're going to sleep. I mean, that's got me in trouble when I was younger. But, I just believe in taking everything to the summit. Whatever you do, we take it to the max. And that's what I try to impart upon these kids. And that's why what we're seeing, I talk to kids, whether they're Catholic, whatever, I talk to them about faith just as part of life. I don't do a big Catholic preach to kids I meet, but I just talk about God. I said we say prayers. When I sit down with 100 kids in Barcelona, we say a blessing. I just do that. When we have our awards banquets, that's just part of my life that I think we all can live and be part of it. So one more note, the last year when I was really frustrated because I couldn't go overseas and take anybody anywhere, right? We couldn't go on planes and go to Europe or go to Latin America. So I decided I would do an event in Dallas, and we called it the Catholic Bowl. I did 16 years of Catholic education, and somehow I've stayed alive to age 70, so it must have worked, And so I want to promote Catholic education, Catholic sports, and we termed it the Catholic Bowl. We did a doubleheader at the Dallas Cowboys Star facility, a 12,000-seat indoor arena. And we did it the weekend of the 9/11, which is the 25th year last year. And it was all faith, freedom, and football became our mantra for that. And that caught on pretty well. The media in Dallas really caught on to that, the faith, freedom, and football. I was able to get Fox and Friends to come down and do just a 5-minute piece on the game, meet all the captains of each team. I got Rocky Blyer was my honorary chairman, who's just one of the great men I know. And so the Catholic Bowl started last year. This year we're going to do a triple header on September 10th. I got 2 other teams, and we're going to expand that. And now I've got I just mentioned it earlier at dinner here. It's something I've been thinking about for a while, but I want to do a Catholic Bowl at the Vatican. There is a field there, and you gentlemen know the Vatican better than I do. I'm going over in June with Siena Heights University, so I might need to find out who I need to talk to. But I've seen the field there, and I want to do and it's going to be flag football, which is really the way people are developing the game internationally now because it doesn't cost anything to do. There's no fear. But I want to do a flag football Catholic Bowl at the Vatican in June of 23. So stay tuned for that. And then the last piece, Notre Dame and Navy are going back to Ireland to play next year, August 26th. And what I do with that game is I take high school teams and also some college teams that might want to go, and I build those games around the day before. In 2012, we had Loyola Academy right here, played against Dallas Jesuit. It was a great Jesuit matchup that, sadly for Chicago, the Dallas team kicked a field goal and won the game in the last seconds. I took John Carroll University, went down, and also played St. Norbert as part of that. So I'm building up games, and that's why I was in Ireland to work on that. So, again, I just feel really blessed to have been raised a Catholic, to have had great mentors, great coaches, great teachers at St. Luke's School, grade school in Erie and at Cathedral Prep and then at the University of Notre Dame. And Gary and I were talking here earlier going, I'm at this point in my life, I'm fine that I never became Joe Theismann, right? I mean, he kept me off the field, but that's okay. I feel very good about where my life has gone, and I might have done dumb things had I been that good at 21 years old. So thank you for honoring me tonight. Let me all honor you for take care of this group. I want to help develop this as you can, as you build this. All right? Thank you.
Thanks, Pat. Our next inductee is, if you're from Chicago, we know your name, so thank you. My brother Nick was pointing out that Maury had a somewhat fortuitous start. He beat out the Finzer to be the starting punter for the Bears, and as a result, you got a Super Bowl ring, and you wearing it or no? Beautiful. It's awesome. So, Maury Buford, he was a punter for 9 seasons with the San Diego Chargers, Chicago Bears, New York Giants. He's a construction owner, and he has a devotion to the Chaplet of Divine Mercy, 3 o'clock every day, right? And so Texas Tech, right? Yeah. We went to my middle son was good friends with Mooney, who's with his sister. Yeah, and so we were down there, guns up. He lost a tough championship at a great school. Maury Buford, everybody, here he is.
Thank you very much. It's an absolute honor to be here. I'm actually speechless that when Pat McCaskey had called me and mentioned that I had been voted into the Catholic Hall of Fame. I'm like, well, y'all must have run out of people, to ask or something. I don't know. Just very, very honored. And a lot of times in life is timing. And being in the right place at the right time. I come from a family. I grew up in a small town a couple hours east of Dallas called Mount Pleasant, Texas, and I'm number 5 of 7 kids in my family. And then I lived in a small enough town to where, when you were in high school, you were able to play all the different sports. I played baseball and football and basketball and ran track and everything. And I remember my senior year in high school, our high school football team was rated number 1 in the state of Texas. And, of course, we were all excited, and anybody that's ever spent any time in Texas realizes that football a lot of times is taken way out of proportion, high school football. But that's what it is. That's what it is on Friday nights, Friday Night Lights. And anyway, the very first game my senior season, I broke my arm. And I was a starting defensive back, and then backup quarterback, and then also punted for the team. And like I said, we were rated number 1 in the state, and I broke my arm. And I had been recruited quite heavily, in college, but after I broke my arm, all of that kind of went away, except for Texas Tech. And Texas Tech continued to, recruit me and wanted me to come play for them. And again, what I thought was the worst thing that could have happened to me in my sports career at that time happened to be the best thing. I decided to go to school at Texas Tech. I became a punter there, just strictly a punter. I was a good little high school player, but when Pat and Patrick, these guys are football players. I was a punter, okay? But I got to Texas Tech, and being a punter, and our football team wasn't real good either. We weren't real good, so I was playing a lot. And again, that helped me. That helped me too, getting a lot of experience. I was very fortunate enough to be drafted after my career at Texas Tech, and was drafted by the San Diego Chargers. And one thing that I do want to mention about timing again is that. And I was telling Pat this earlier, that his coach at Notre Dame was Lou Holtz. And Lou Holtz had recruited me at Arkansas, and I almost went to Arkansas. And my wife Dana here, my beautiful bride of 35 years, she, as we found out, she almost went to Arkansas also. But as it worked out, and as the timing worked out, she and I met one another at Texas Tech our very first year, her freshman year, my sophomore year. And I will tell you a quick story that it was a political science class, and Dana was 10 minutes late coming into the political science class. And it was in a room where when you walk in down at the bottom, the professor's down at the bottom, and then you have the stairs that come up. It's kind of a little theater type room. And I nudged my buddy when Dana came in there. I said, I'm going to marry that girl right there. It was unbelievable. It was the greatest thing that ever happened to me in my life. I'm telling you, the timing of that. And her being a sophomore, and I don't know how, she was a freshman at the time. She wasn't even supposed to be able to be in that class because she was just a freshman. But anyway, that you talk about great timing. The Lord was involved with that. There's no question about it. Got drafted by the Chargers. Let me see a show of hands of anybody that's ever spent any time in San Diego, California. So you know that the weather there is about 72 degrees year round. It's beautiful for a punter who's only going to be out on the football field, 4, 5, 6 times a game. You don't have to worry about staying warm. You don't have to worry about the wind. You don't have to worry about the elements. I played with San Diego. I'm there 3 years. I get the knock on the door from the Turk my fourth year, going into training camp. He goes, Buford, you need to get your playbook. He said, you've been traded. You need to go see Don Coryell. I go, where did I get traded to? They go, Chicago. I go, oh my Lord. And the only thing that I remember when I heard that, the only thing I'd remember is watching film of Dick Butkus, and Ed Obradovich just blowing smoke out of their mouths, at Soldier Field, and how cold it was. And I'm just like, how in the world am I going to stay warm? So I was a little bit bummed out at the time. But as I mentioned, again, that was a God thing too. It was the greatest thing that could have ever happened to me in my life. My sports career was being traded to Chicago. I mean, Rick Smith, who was Rick was our what do you call it? The marketing guy, the fellow who was involved with the media and everything. He gave me a media guide of the Bears, the PR guy. Gave me a media guide of the Bears. I knew that they had been to the NFC Championship game the year before. I knew that. I knew they had a good football team. But he gave me the media guide, and as I got on the plane, I'm starting to look at it, and I start reading, and there's a lot of kids from Texas on the team, a lot of kids from the Southwest Conference, a lot of guys that I played against, and the more excited I get, I go, dude, this team is good. This team is really, really good. And I remember who mentioned Dave Fenzer. Is Dave a buddy of yours?
Dave went to Loyola Academy ahead of us.
Okay. Dave's a great guy. We were in San Diego together, vying for the same position, and then I won the job, and then Mike picked him up, and he was on the 84 team that went to the NFC Championship game, and I remember watching him in the NFC Championship game. And then when I get traded to Chicago the next year, who's the first person I see when I get to Hallis Hall? I see Dave. Dave didn't know that they had traded for me, and he's like, "What the hell are you doing here, Buford?" I go, "I don't know, Dave. I don't know." It ended up we were going against one another again in that training camp, which was really unique. But what a great guy. Do you see him still?
I haven't seen him in 2 years, but yeah, he spoke highly of you as well.
Well, when you see him, you tell him I said hello next time you see him. Okay, but anyway, to make a long story short, I mean, it's 85 for the Super Bowl year. It's the greatest thing that could have ever happened to me in my professional career. And being on that team and being a small part of such an incredible football team. The only disappointment, I've spoken with several people tonight, the only disappointment with that football team is that we didn't win more Super Bowls, and we really should have. We had the youngest team in the NFL at that time, and no, it is what it is. But I would love to see the Bears get back. Chicago is – I played in New York. I played in San Diego. I played here in Chicago. I think it's the greatest sports town there is. I really do. And it's the people here are passionate. They work hard. They play harder. They love their sports. It's an incredible – every professional athlete should have an opportunity to play in this city, one time in their career. There's no question about it. But life is timing, and I'm a strong believer that God also he gives people faith at different times in their life, and I don't know why God gave me the faith that He did early in my life. And I'm not saying that I was a choir boy; I was far from that. But when I was the type of kid though that when I went to college, I never missed Mass. I'd go to Mass every Sunday, and my friends would sleep in, and I would always go to Mass. I mean, not feel very well when I went to Mass, but I would go to Mass. It was just something that was very, very important to me. The first time I ever felt the Holy Spirit, and it is so, and it's not ironic because it was meant to have this ceremony, on Pentecost Sunday. The Holy Spirit. The first time I ever remember, I felt the Holy Spirit a little bit, but the very first time ever that it truly just hit me like a ton of bricks was when I had my first child. And I'm sure that it was the same way with a lot of you in here when you have your first baby. And I remember going into the crib and looking at him and remembering the story about Abraham and God wanting him, hey, I want you to sacrifice your kid. I'm like, what if I would have gotten that message? I don't think I could have done that, And then you start thinking about, okay, God only had one son. That was Jesus. Mary only had one son, her little boy. And he gave his life up for all of us. And seeing my child, our firstborn child in the crib, and it's like, knowing that, I mean, how could you, it just made me realize how much God loves us, how much Jesus loves us. It's incredible. And that's the Holy Spirit. My kids still laugh at me all the time because I cry in Mass a lot. The Holy Spirit will come over me if there's a specific song that's being played, or if certain readings, just certain little things, and they'll always look over at me saying, "Let me see if Daddy's crying. Let me see if he's crying." But it's the Holy Spirit is just it's incredible, and it was not coincidental, Angela, that you decided to put this weekend, I think, and. Anyway, make a long story short, and I'll stop rambling, but thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to come up here and and honoring me. It is truly my honor, and it's an honor to meet Patrick and Patrick here and to be a part of the induction ceremony. And I look forward to coming back to Chicago. Dana and I look forward to coming back every time we have an opportunity to. And this time we made a special effort to go see our friend Steve McMichael, who's, he's probably on his last leg, battling ALS. Yes, ma'am.
What do you think about the idea if we say a prayer for him right now? Yeah.
I think it'd be great.
The Holy Spirit right now. Bishop, would you lead us in prayer for Steve McMichael?
Sure, let's ask the invocation of our Blessed Mother for her intercession. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Our Lady, help of the sick, pray for us. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you so much. Thank you. But we had an opportunity to see Steve, and he had a smile on his face, but he's at the point now to pretty much where he's bedridden, and he can do facial expressions, and he's whispering. Now you have to be able to read his lips to really be able to tell what he's saying. But we made him smile a few times, didn't we, Dee? But it makes you realize how fragile life is. But that's a wisdom. This isn't our home. We all realize that. This isn't our house. We're not meant to live here. There's not anything that's going to make us happy here, long term. But it's still, it's kind of sad to see that. But one more thing that I wanted to mention that I'm very, very thankful for is my father was a convert, and my wife is a convert, and I learned more about my Catholic faith from both of them than I did being a cradle Catholic. I kind of took it for granted. But Dana does not miss a step, and she should be the one up here receiving the award other than me. But again, thank you so very, very much, and I appreciate it. And if there's anything that I could ever do to for any of you or help any of you out, please let me know. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Guns up, Texas Tech.
Thank you.
Pat Eilers, and my brother was saying you got kids at Loyal Academy, so thank you. Awesome.
Fourth.
Yeah, so the best, at one point in time, the best high school football was in PA, but it's Chicago. Loyal Academy leads that group. So Pat Eilers, I think everybody knows the name, that he's a smart guy because he got into Yale, and then he decided to walk on at Notre Dame. Kind of a Rudy story. Only you actually played more than one play. He was a star player, and then went on into the NFL and played for 6 seasons with the Vikings, the Redskins, the Bears. He's on the board of directors of Women's Care in LaGrange, and he's also brought a pretty wife. So, thank you all. Pat Eilers, everybody.
Thank you. All right, thank you. I know we're long, so I'll try to be somewhat concise, but thanks to the bishop, the Monsignor, and all the priests that are here this evening for having us. Thanks to the McCaskies and the Tomlinsons for putting this together, and I think it's really neat that you have formed an organization that's sports faith based, right? And I can tell you, at least for Steenbridge and myself, we weren't very good athletes. But Maury, it's great to spend time with you this evening, and congratulations to both of you. So what I was just going to hit on tonight is, just talk about faith, belief, and then it's interesting, the Virgin Mary. And when you think about faith in terms of, for myself, I was never a very good athlete, right? But I always just really had a passion and really enjoyed football. So, going to, as was mentioned, I started on the East Coast at Yale, and similar to Maury's, life story. I had broken a collarbone senior year in high school, and so a lot of the colleges that might have been talking to a slow white skilled position player out of Minnesota. That's all an oxymoron. But, it wasn't coming together, so I thought I'd go and start in the Ivy League. Went there for a year, and at the end of that first year, I went and talked to the guy who had recruited me, who was the defensive line coach for the varsity team. And I just said, Coach Kelly, I'm going to transfer to Notre Dame. And he goes, well, if you do, you will never play. And I said, that may be, but I'd rather go and never play than, not find out. That shouldn't be the reason you don't go. And there's something about, growing up, and I was lucky enough to go to a Catholic grade school, Nativity, and a Catholic high school, St. Thomas Academy in St. Paul, Minnesota. And part of living your faith is, I think, we're put on earth to empty the tank every day, right? Regardless of what you choose to do, and we have a lot of priests in the room that, do give us the sacraments and are going to get our souls hopefully to heaven. But each of us and what we do, and Pat was hitting on his passion, is whatever you do, it's just we're supposed to empty the tank and do the best with what God's given us, right? And so for me, that was trying to go to Notre Dame. And I was telling Maury, Coach Holtz, I was fortunate enough to play for him. And we were golfing at a place that I shouldn't be because I'm not a good golfer. But I said, you know what, Coach, if you were a better recruiter, you wouldn't be playing golf with me today. This was about 5 years ago. But and it was, Coach Holtz has a lot of, if you ever heard him speak, he's one of the best speakers ever. He would say in the locker room, you know what, we're here, we're playing at the University of Notre Dame. God doesn't care if we win today, but his mother does. So that was neat. That was neat for me because, it is about, that is your faith, right? It's about, using all the talent you've been given, whatever that is, to the best of your ability. And that's how you glorify God on earth, in whatever your chosen, walk of life. So that's kind of the faith component. There is this belief component, right, too. So you had to, people should dream, you should have belief. Pat and I, Maury and I played against each other when I was initially for the Vikings. Pat and I were actually played together in an alumni game in Hamburg, Germany back in 2002. I think Pat was one of the older gentlemen on the team at the time, which was incredible. But we would look back on that. There was two poignant moments that you look back in 20 years ago now. One was pregame in the locker room. Father Reilly, who was the team chaplain forever at Notre Dame, came to Hamburg, Germany with a bunch of has-beens like Pat and myself. We had Barry Alvarez, who coached up at Wisconsin. He was our defensive coordinator, and the list goes on. We had all kinds of players and coaches. It was the greatest thing. Pre-game, locker room, Father really gets us down on our knees. we say the Hail Mary and the Mary Queen of Victory, pray for us. There were people crying in the locker room. I mean, teammates of Pat and I. And what a cool thing that was, because as we look back on our college careers, it wasn't really the wins and losses at the end of the games. It was, poignant moments like that and being faith-based in sports, right? That was a real special thing for us. We did hold off the Blue Devils from scoring with about 30 seconds to go at the end of the game to win, which was also phenomenal. There was like 50,000 people. It would have been a really long ride home, right? So, and I think that was a little bit part of what got you, I mean, maybe you were doing some of this anyways, but the whole international thing, Pat's really taken to a new level. So, that belief, and I'll just tell you today, it comes up again down at the University of Notre Dame. They have a camp today, and they have a bunch of recruits in. Importantly, there's a gentleman in some of the McCaskies potentially in the room, or some Bears people might know of a gentleman named Coach Heastan. Harry Heastan's the offensive line coach. I see some head shaking yes. He was a Bears offensive line coach. He's back at Notre Dame coaching offensive line. And today, there's another person, and most people in the room won't know this gentleman, Joe Moore. Joe Moore coached at the Pittsburgh. He coached at Notre Dame. Everybody that he coached that became a senior starter played in the league, and was a phenomenal. He was my best friend's coach, Andy Heck, who played for the Bears as well. Now is a Kansas City Chiefs offensive line coach. But today, down in South Bend, they're giving Harry Heastand a plaque that says, from here going forward, the offensive line at Notre Dame will be after Joe Moore. It'll be the Joe Moore offensive line coach. And a bunch of Joe Moore's disciples donated $3 million to make this happen. But the neat thing about it, there's a guy named Aaron Taylor that some people may recall. He was a pretty good offensive line. He still does a lot of TV commentary. Aaron said the great thing about Joe Moore is that he goes, he could, there's a lot of blocking technique fundamentals that, coaches go through. He goes, it wasn't all the fundamentals. What Joe Moore, the best thing he did is first he believed in you. And then you started to believe him. And then ultimately you started to believe in yourself, and the belief component is so important. That's really what faith is, right? There's a belief, there's, you just believe, right? And that's all what I think faith is. And then he said, once we started to believe in ourselves, we rolled. And I thought it was really neat. And I can't wait to see Harry Heastan. If you guys know Harry Heastan, he looks up to Joe Moore, right? And so, things like that, just the faith and the belief, I think, are really neat. And then the last thing I'd say is when it comes to Mary, so when I got to Notre Dame, I said there's a lot of people out in New Haven, Connecticut, if I never play, that'll be, they'll tell me, I told you so, right? So I always went, when I saw the Golden Dome, if you guys have been to campus down in South Bend, when I ever saw the Golden Dome, anytime I saw it, I said a Hail Mary initially, that I would just continue to believe, have faith, regardless of what happened. And then eventually, I was able to fool Coach Holtz enough to get play time. And then I kept saying a Hail Mary through my junior and senior year. Eventually, I was thinking, Mary, give me, if you would, a woman that I can marry and that will be my bride for the rest of my life. And then, I meet Jana going into my last year. And then I went back to the Twin Cities, was able to play for the Vikings, and we got married. And so like Maury, and I'm sure Patrick, this is the best thing that's happened to me in my life. But it was because of Mary. And the last thing I'll finish with, the person in the couple that should really be honored tonight is Bobby and Betsy Williams. Okay, and if you don't know anything about them, I think what Mary went through when she probably found out she was with child, and Joseph, they're not necessarily married yet, pretty awkward. Bobby and Betsy deal with this every day for how many years has it been now, Bobby? Over 20 years. Women's Care Center in South Bend. Coach Holtz is still, I still stay in touch with. He's been a big proponent of Bobby. I'm slow. I told you I was a slow white guy, so it took me a few years, but I finally got behind helping Bobby and Betsy and Jan and I, and they've saved over 350,000 babies developing the Women's Care Center. Thank you. 17,000 last year, 45 days and counting. And they're opening up a center, hopefully it's okay, downtown here in Chicago. And it just keeps growing. It's the most kind of successful, it's pro, he just puts love out. When women come in, he just gives them love. And so this is really, the manifestation of having, faith and belief and giving women the opportunity to know that they can believe that they can actually rear a child successfully, even out of marriage. And so it's a real inspiration to be part of it. And I just think, Mary, I'm sure, had experienced the same thing. She didn't have the Women's Care Center at the time to rely on, but she had God. And so I just want to, really thank the Tomlinsons, thank the McCaskies. This might be small today, but you could see it continuing to grow because, sports is just a manifestation of, I think, a lot of faith-based people trying to do their best. And there is no guarantee whether you're going to win or lose. But you go into that game with belief, right? And Bobby and Betsy started this over 20 years ago just with the belief to put love out, and have done remarkable work. So it's a real honor to be here, to be affiliated with them, to be affiliated with everybody. Congratulations, Pat and Maury. Thank you.
Hey,